Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists veterinary associates with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about new graduate veterinary contract review. So, what are some important points that I go over with new grads who are dealing with their first real employment contract and haven't had to worry or think about many of the contents of it before. So first, let's just immediately talk about risks. The biggest risk comes with compensation. Many vets will move into potentially some kind of ProSal method or a collections-based agreement, and there are some very important things that most vets need to understand. So first, never enter into a contract where you're paid on collections immediately. Meaning, if you do not have a guaranteed base or a daily rate or an hourly rate, although that's very rare for a vet, maybe if you're doing relief work. But if you have a full-time job, you can't enter into the agreement immediately via collections. And so let me explain. So if you're paid on collections, what that means is you'll get a percentage of whatever the practice brings in based upon your services. And then maybe every 2 weeks or every month, there'll be some kind of reconciliation, and they'll just simply multiply your percentage somewhere usually between 25 to 35% times what your collections are, and then that's how much you'll get paid. A ProSal method is very prevalent in the veterinary industry for whatever reason, and there's different ways of doing it, but in that method, normally any kind of negative balance is carried forward. So let's say you start a job, and then there'll be some kind of draw normally, and so let's say they're going to pay you $10,000 a month as a draw. And so month one, $10,000, and then you bring in less than that. And so you're going to have a negative balance from what they paid to you versus what you brought in. And so in that scenario, that negative balance will move on into month two. And then now you have to cover your normal salary in addition to whatever negative balance there was. It's just normal for a new graduate vet to start off slowly. As you build up your practice, your collections will increase over time. And you just have to get used to being a full-time vet. Is the staffing efficient? Do you have enough techs or assistants? You got to get used to the workflow. Your collections will increase every quarter, usually for the first year. Now, obviously, it is specialty dependent. If you're doing small animal, just like a normal, veterinarian practice, it takes time to build up. Maybe if you're doing urgent care or at an emergency hospital, that should the work is whatever the work is that comes in. You're not generally building up, like a client base. So avoiding any kind of negative accrual is pretty important. So what I would suggest is getting a guarantee, at least for the first year. So let's just say your guarantee is $120,000, so you get paid $10,000 a month. And then no matter what happens during that year, if you have a negative accrual, you can, maybe the percentage would be you get the greater of the $10,000 a month or 35% of collections. You just want to insulate yourself from the risk of accumulating a big negative balance moving forward, simply because you were just starting your practice and you're kind of new to things. So that's kind of the first giant red flag, is just compensation. The next thing would be non-competes or any kind of restrictive covenants, non-compete, non-solicit, anything like that. You want to make certain that you are not completely prohibited from working within an area for a period of time. Usually 1 year and 5 to 10 miles from your primary practice location is a reasonable non-compete. And then you want to make sure that the scope of it is specific to what you're doing for the employer. So let me give you an example. If you're working urgent care, then you want your non-compete just say you can't work in urgent care. Or if you're doing a small animal general vet clinic, you can't do that. But you could then do urgent care or emergency veterinary medicine, something like that. So those are the two main red flags that you need to think about when you're a new grad. Obviously, there's probably a dozen more things that I normally go over with the new grad vet. But with this video, I'm not going to spend 40 minutes going over that. So if you have any questions about your employment agreement or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the information listed below in the description. And I appreciate you watching the video. All right, take care.